Hello there, welcome to the fourth lesson of the Python course for beginners. In this video, we will learn more about variables and see some important operators. So now let's go back to the program file. So let us solve the homework which I had given yesterday. So first we want to take an input as the person's height in meters. So I'll create a variable, let's call it m, and this should be an input. So I'll ask the user to enter his or her height. So enter your height, and now whatever the input should be, I want to multiply that by 100 so that I can get the height in centimeters. So I'll create a variable called cm, and here I'll multiply m by 100. Now this is an asterisk symbol, and in programming we use the asterisk symbol for multiplication. So once I multiply this by 100, I'll print cm. Now if I run this by pressing Fn plus F5, then I give a height, let's say 1.5 meters. Now as you can see, it keeps printing 1.5, then 1.5, then 1.5, 1.5, and so on, like 100 times. Because what happened was, it took 1.5 as a string. Now it cannot multiply a word with a number, right? So it just thinks of printing that word 100 times. So that is what actually happened over here. Now to avoid that, we have to take this as a float. So basically a decimal value. You're taking it as a decimal value and not as an integer, because, well, the height in meters is most probably a decimal. Let's try it without actually converting it to an integer first. Now if I enter the height 1.5, as you can see, the result comes as 150, which is correct, but let's say I don't want this decimal part. So I'll have to convert this centimeter height again to an integer, because it took the value 1.5 as a float, as a decimal. Then when it multiplied by 100, it still maintained the data type, which was a float, and hence even though this was not required, it still printed 0.0. So I'll just convert this to an integer. And also, after printing the variable cm, I'll just print the text cm, basically in the form of a string. So enter height 1.5, and as you can see, it shows the integer value of cm, which is 150, and then it prints the text cm, stands for centimeters. So that was the homework. Now let us learn about naming variables. So to name variables, we can only use alphabets, numbers, and the underscore symbol. So we basically can't use any symbols like the dollar sign or the hash sign. Now variables cannot start with numbers, so they can only start with alphabets or underscore. And also in variables, we can't use any keywords. Keywords are basically the words in Python that are already used for other functions. These include and, as, return, while, in, not, from, del, def, if, else, and so on. We will learn the use of these keywords later, but for now just know that we cannot use any of these special words. So now let us check that out in the Python file. So if I just put this homework in comment, I'll actually make a new file, save it as random. So now if I want to create a variable, let's say ABCD, and if I assign any value to it, obviously it will work. But if I add any number in the starting, let's say 2, then if I run it, it shows me invalid syntax, because I cannot use numbers in the starting, whereas I can use numbers in the middle of the variable or at the end. I can also use underscore wherever I want, even in the starting. Now if I run this, as you can see, it does not show any error. Also, I cannot use any symbols anywhere. If I use dollar, so if I just run this, obviously it will show me an error because symbols are not allowed. Now this works. But what if I want to create a multi-word comment? So let's say I want to create a variable salary of a person. Now multi-words are not allowed because there's a space between them, so it will show me an error. So to avoid this, a general convention is used and that is putting underscore between the words because spaces are not allowed. So underscore acts as the spaces basically. As you can see, there's no error shown. Instead of putting underscores, you can also make each word capital starting from the second word. So O, A, and P. So this will also work fine. And these are just some conventions used for naming variables. And as you can see, if I use a pre-built word in Python, let's say def, okay, so it's basically a keyword which we'll learn about later. So it becomes orange, and that means that this word is already used in Python. So if I, let's say I want to create only this, and if I run this, it will show me invalid syntax because I cannot assign anything to this keyword. However, if I type anything random and I put underscore with it, then it can work. These are just some rules you should follow while naming variables in Python. Now let us check another really beneficial feature in Python. So suppose I have many variables and I'm assigning different values to them. Now instead of typing this in many lines, what I can do is directly separate them by comma. If I just remove this and if I do this, this will also work the same way. So what happens is A gets assigned 4, B gets assigned 5, and C gets assigned 6. So if I print them, so it's 4, 5, and 6. Now the same amount of comma should be used on the left hand side as on the right hand side. Like if I put another value over here 7, so there's no variable to store it, so it will just show an error. And same thing will be if I create more variables over here than the right hand side, so again there'll be an error. So this is a really cool Python feature. Also, this will be really beneficial for swapping variables. So if I have two variables and I want to swap them, so right now A is 5 and B is 10, but let's say I want A to be 10 and B to be 5. So what generally people think to do is just put A is equal to B, B is equal to A. But then do you see the fault in this? Like if I print them, print A and B, then it will just show the same number. Now that happens because first A gets assigned B. So B has the value 10. So the value of A becomes 10. Now when I put B is equal to A, remember in this last line, A is already assigned 10 from this value. So B also will just remain 10. So you can't really swap variables like that. In other programming languages, you'd have to create a third variable and stuff. But what Python allows you to do is just directly assign them in one line. So if I run this, as you can see 10 comma 5 gets printed because it got swapped. So the value of A is 10 and the value of B is now 5. So this swapping in one line is really beneficial. Now let us learn about the arithmetic operators in Python. So basically these operators are used for maths functionalities. Now plus sign is obviously used for addition. So 5 plus 2 gives us 7. The minus sign is used for subtraction. Like 5 minus 2 gives us 3. The asterisk sign is used for multiplication, as I said earlier. So 5 into 2 gives us 10. Then two asterisks are used for exponents. So 5 to the power 2 is 25. So we will write it as 5 asterisk asterisk 2 and that will return 25. Now one slash is used for division, normal division. So 5 divided by 2 gives us 2.5 and 4 divided by 2 gives us 2.0. It won't give 2, it will give 2.0 because this will always give a float value, basically a decimal. Now if you use two front slashes, floor division happens. So floor division is basically like division, but then the decimal part gets removed. So when we normally do 5 divided by 2, we will get 2.5. But in floor division, if we do 5 slash slash 2, we will get the result as 2 because the 0.5 part is removed. Note that this is not rounding off. Like if the result was 2.9, the answer of floor division would not become 3, it would just become 2 as the 0.9 part is fully removed. And now the next operator is modulus, and this is very commonly used in Python because it has many features, as we'll see later. So what this modulus does is it divides the number on its left by the number on its right and gives the remainder. So when we do 5 divided by 2, we know that 2 times 2 is 4, and hence to get 5, one remainder is left. And similarly, 4 modulus 2 is 0 because, well, 4 is divisible by 2. Now let us see that in Python. So if I just remove this, now if I create a variable x and assign the value 3 to it, I create another variable y and assign 1 to it, or actually 2 is better. So now I'll just do x plus y, and now I want to print this, so I'll put it in a print statement, and if I run it, it will show me 5. Now similarly I can do that for all operations, so let me just copy paste it. And here I'll put the minus sign, here I'll put into, which is basically an asterisk, here I'll put a division, then here I'll put exponent, and here I'll put 2 front slashes for floor division, and here I'll put the modulus sign. Need this, and if I run it, so as you can see, 3 plus 2 gives us 5, 3 minus 2 gives us 1, 3 into 2 gives us 6, 3 divided by 2 gives 1.5, 3 into 3 to the power of 2 gives 9, then 3 floor divided by 2 gives 1 because this 0.5 got removed from here, and when we divide 3 by 2 we get 1 as the remainder, so 1 is shown. Now let's learn about the next type of operators, which are comparison operators or relational operators. They're called comparison operators or relational operators because they help us to compare two values or find the relation between them. So the first operator is to check equality. For this we use two equal to symbols, and so if I do 5 is equal to 5, the result will be true because, well, 5 is equal to 5. Now many people make a mistake of just using 1 equals to symbol, but then remember that that's for assignment of values. So if I do a equals to 5, 5 gets assigned to a. So if we use 1 equals to symbol, it won't work. Now the next operator is not equals to. So for that we use an exclamation mark and then the equals to symbol. So the exclamation mark stands for not, and, well, the equals to symbol stands for equals to. So 5 not equal to 4 is obviously true. Then the remaining 4 symbols are pretty common: greater than or equal to, lesser than, and lesser than or equal to. So 5 greater than 5 will be false, 5 greater than or equal to 5 will be true, 4 lesser than 5 will be true, and 6 lesser than or equal to 5 will be false. Now let us see that in Python. So I'll just put this in a comment, and I'll take 6 of these. Now I'll replace these operators with the comparison operators. So first let's check x is greater than y, then x is greater than or equal to y, x is lesser than y, x is lesser than or equal to y, x is whether x is equal to y, so 2 equals to symbol, and x is not equal to y. Also note that to check greater than or lesser than, we use these brackets, and these are called angular brackets. So on your keyboard you usually have to press shift plus comma to get the left angular bracket, and shift plus the full stop to get the right angular bracket. Now if I run this, so let us see the results. So x was 3 and y was 2. So x is greater than y, true. X is greater than or equal to y, true, because 3 is greater than 2 and 3 is obviously greater than or equal to 2. But 3 is not lesser than or equal to 2. So it shows false 2 times. Whether 3 is equal to 2, again it's false. And 3 is not equal to 2, so it shows true over here. Let us try that for another example. So if I do x is equal to 5, y is also equal to 5, and now if I run this, let us see the results. So first it shows false because, well, 5 is not greater than 5, but 5 is greater than or equal to 5. As this equality sign came, it became true. Now 5 is not lesser than 5, so it shows false. Then 5 is lesser than or equal to 5, so it shows true. Then 5 is equal to 5, so it shows true. And 5 is not equal to 5 will be false because 5 is equal to 5. So there is no formal homework for today. I just want you all to explore the variables and the operator stuff that I taught today. So that's it for today. Good luck and have a nice day.